So, dark side of real estate, let's start with a very hot topic, which is divorce listings.
Divorce listing. Dun, dun, dun.
The current American population, I think, is at like 50% divorce rate, right? So divorces are nothing new. We see them all the time. As sad as they are, things happen in life, right? But what's crazy, in my opinion, is like you can go from loving someone for years, right? I'm thinking
30 years I've seen.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you hate each other so much that you can't even agree on, you know, you're separating everything, all that stuff. But it's so bad that the court gets involved and has to start telling you what to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Seen it too many times.
Yeah.
Well, you have one right now.
I've had one for over a year, you mean?
Kind of crazy. We're not going to say anything about names or addresses or whatnot, but let's dive in to see how crazy the story is and what we kind of have to deal with when we're going through divorce listings.
Yeah, so I think it's safe to say that this is one of the craziest experiences I've seen. And I say crazy with a grain of salt. Like I don't mean to be rude as I say that, but it's been a roller coaster of weirdness. So, you know, we first met with this client over a year ago, and he was court ordered to choose the realtor. And the ex-wife, who is not on title, but in California, you know, you legally own the property together. So she was court ordered to go along with it, and that they were supposed to sign documents together, that they were supposed to be on the same page regarding showings and prepping the house, all sorts of things. Well, she refused to sign. That was the first step. And then it goes to court again. I mean, this guy's been spending thousands of dollars on attorney fees to the point where he basically told his attorney, hold on.
And the water has been turned off. And
because he has been working on evicting his ex-wife for the better part of this last year.
Yeah.
And the craziest part about it is, you know, I think the house is going to sell to a point where they would get like over $400,000 in proceeds.
Because they bought it at a good time.
Right. And it's Temecula.
When they loved each other.
Yes. Well, actually, he owned it well before her also.
Oh, yeah. True.
And there's like tenants before that. Whatever. It's a long story. But the point is, let's say $400,000 in proceeds in a normal good divorce would have been like pretty much 50-50, right?
Yeah.
But the fighting has gotten so bad, and the court orders of like forcing the sale and the cooperation and stuff that's not happened on the ex-wife's end, to the point where instead of all the proceeds going into like a trust, only $25,000 has to. So he gets automatically all of that money.
Yeah.
And only $25,000 is set aside for her to fight for it.
I was going to say, there's no guarantees that she gets it.
At this point, because she's had to get evicted and she hasn't cooperated with anything, she's probably not getting anything. And if anything, he's going to sue her for all of his attorney fees and everything.
Yeah.
So to be honest, like, I've never seen anything so gruesome. Like, and not to say heartless as in he's a heartless person by any means. He's been through a lot. She's been through a lot.
Yeah.
But the human interaction is like gone.
Yeah.
They no longer care about the other's well-being
or feelings. None of that.
Oh my gosh, so gone.
Well, and I remember you telling me there's $8,400 in back due for HOA.
HOA, and the water has been shut off for a long time, but there's a water lien also of a couple $100 worth, a couple months worth of water not getting
Fun
paid.
fact, if you don't pay your HOA, they actually can file for foreclosure on your house.
Attempt it, and they stopped it.
Yeah, so. It's not guaranteed, but they can do it if you live in an HOA community.
It's pretty crazy.
And weren't you saying, too, that she even tried to sign a listing agreement, like, behind your back and try?
Yeah, so in a perfect, easy world, we would have sold this to some investors who would have just taken her on, basically like a tenant that they have to evict and whatever. And we had that opportunity, but that was about $50,000 to $100,000 less than market value, and he wasn't willing to take it. After dealing with this divorce for so many years, I don't blame him, and that's his right. Because the court orders do say that they are supposed to cooperate and have the house showing ready, and because she wasn't cooperating, he wasn't forced to just sell it for less. Like that's not what he agreed to, basically. And so, would have loved to have sold this house over a year ago, but it would have been a disservice to him making an extra $50,000 to $100,000. And in instead of that, he's chosen to try and figure out how to get her out to be able to sell it.
Yeah.
And
and the market's gone up, so
and the
that's a
market's
plus.
gotten better. So yeah, I mean, it could have taken a dive and been for the worst, but it's definitely been for the best.
Well.
So yeah, so in the meantime, over a year, she just assumed that our listing agreement expired. There's something called an extension, addendums, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But so then tried getting a listing agreement signed behind his back, even though the court order specifically says that he chooses the realtor.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, the whole thing that happened. And brings us to Dark Side of Real Estate Part 2, where she tries selling it with Open Door. And it's so dumb. But we can talk about Open Door next.
Yeah.
But basically, it was already an expired offer by the time my client saw it. So
well, it's just
pointless.
been too long. Well, there was one fun thing that happened when I had a divorce listing. We went through the whole thing. We ended up selling it. And then I get a message from the ex-husband who apparently had what the ex-wife said was that he cheated on her, la-di-da, right?
There's so many, you never know.
You just never know what the truth is. But the ex-husband, who is very cooperative with me and very friendly the entire time, he asks if he could take me out to dinner. And I politely had to decline because
you're married with children.
Not just married with children. Professionally, that is just not something I would do, divorce listing or not.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, things just, people always think that real estate is so pretty and, sunshine and rainbows and it's easy.
Sometimes it's sad, like you're hearing sob stories about lies and cheating and like I saw this client like living on the floor with no water on in the house, but that's her choice right now, but it's still sad. And there's no, what people forget is we stay in our lane. Like we can only do so much.
We're not attorneys. We're not tax people.
I'm not a judge. Like my opinion truly doesn't matter at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah, you could say, yeah, you're right. You should be blah, blah, blah. But it
changes
doesn't
nothing.
matter. It changes nothing.
Yeah.
All it is just words.
Yeah. I'm sure there are a lot of people who get divorced very cleanly. Like I'm sure most divorces don't happen this way, but when you own property together and stuff and there's a lot of money on the table, people get a little feisty.
I mean, I know that when we list divorce properties and let's say it's court ordered, they did not choose us. I always tell people I want it at the end of the whole thing to seem like you did choose me. That
you treat it the same.
I'm going to treat you guys equally. I'm not going to pick sides. My goal and our goal as a company is to sell your house fast and for the most money possible and to make it a very seamless process.
Yes.
So far, that's exactly what we've done, and we've held up our end of the bargain.
This eviction one's seriously the only one that's a little crazy.
I mean,
but
again,
it's
out of your hands.
It's out of my hands. And from the beginning, I've said the same thing. Like, I am not just one person's agent.
Yeah.
I'm a neutral third party. Mm-hmm. Like, my opinion doesn't matter. But
not for seller 1 or seller 2. I'm in the middle.
I can advise, but that's whether you take my advice or not is a separate story.
So I can advise you on price. I can advise you on market conditions.
Yes,
but I cannot advise you whether you should turn the water off and poop on the floor.
Yeah,
or not.
Probably shouldn't do that. But.
Don't do that. But I'm just
saying. No. I mean, seriously, I could go on and on about the crazy stories and the photos that I've seen and I could go on.
I mean, another one we had too, just a crazy story, is that it had been vacant for, I think when I ended up taking the listing, for 11 months.
Oh, and that's the one that looked so cute after the buyers moved in, right?
I don't know. I think
we drove
once I got it all cleaned out.
Yeah.
Because it was literally like aliens abducted them. When I went to go see it, it had been vacant for almost an entire year.
Wait, you're talking about our listing?
Yeah, one of my court-ordered ones that I had.
Okay.
Over in Paris.
Okay, that one. Yeah.
And I walked in, and it was like just stuff everywhere.
People just walked out and left. We've seen this multiple times.
Talk about a hard divorce. I mean, you're behind in your payments. You can no longer afford your payment.
Because you're not living there either.
Yeah, and I walked in, and I'm like, oh, my God, okay, you guys take what you want. Otherwise, I'm going to we're going to have to trash it. You know, we got to get this house on the market. You cannot make your next payment.
Yeah.
We have to sell this. I need to talk to the bank.
And for people watching this, there's a fine line between missing a mortgage payment and missing multiple mortgage payments and getting foreclosed on and all sorts of other things. Yes. But rule of thumb, you miss one mortgage payment in 12 months and you can skate by.
Yeah.
But 2 within 12 months, you ruin your credit, you ruin your possibility of getting another mortgage.
What would Rick say, like 2 years?
At minimum for 2 years, but over those 2 years, you need to make every single payment.
Yeah.
On time.
Well, that was the thing, and for our listeners, that if you miss 3 payments in a row, it is called a notice of default. It gets filed, which means it initiates the foreclosure process. Mm-hmm. So once you hit that 90 days, they say, here's a notice of default. They send it to you. And then once you keep missing, then the bank, if you've not talked to them, you know, and let them know what's going on, because I've had that happen where they've already filed for foreclosure. Yeah. This was another divorce listing. And it was almost too late. It was like,
oh yeah, you guys barely stopped it.
Almost. It was unbelievable that we were able to stop it. But this is what experience does. This is what, you know, our mother Jill, 20 years, she used to do foreclosures, she used to do short sales, all these different things in order to talk to the bank. And that's what a lot of agents don't know how to do. They don't know which route to go, you know? So I think that makes us particularly an asset for
if we
things
can
like
give
that.
People and advice at all, it's like never miss a house payment. Miss a car payment first. Miss a credit card payment first.
Yeah.
Miss some other payment first. But your house payment, that mortgage payment, has the least amount of leeway and the most effect on your credit and your ability to be homeless.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think,
don't
too,
miss that.
is that if you do have to miss a payment,
call.
And you can't do anything else. Like you've let's say that was their final, that you've missed all the other payments, your car and that kind of stuff. And you're like, I can't do this. List the house. I guarantee you have equity. List the house. Get out of there.
Yeah.
Stop trying to
drown.
It's okay. You know,
don't drown. That's the thing is, living in California is wonderful. Don't get me wrong. There's so many things about living in California, but if you cannot afford it and you are drowning in your payments, sell your house.
Sell your house. Maybe move. Rent. It's okay to rent. I tell people all the time, it's okay to rent. Don't be house poor. I never advocate for house poorness. Well, and that's what.
Take the money that you have out of it, you know? But when people wait too long or they do some deferment program that they're not reading the fine lines, you know, like if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
But that's what we see a lot with divorce listings because they're both so stubborn that one person doesn't want to move out of the house. One person, you know, one of them, they didn't even know they were behind because the husband was controlling the mortgage payment and
lack thereof.
She had no idea. Yeah, she had no idea.
The thing is when you're going through a divorce, I feel for you because there's so much more you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. You know,
especially if kids are involved.
Especially if there are kids involved. Yeah. But when, you know, there are so many studies that have shown that when humans are in that flight or fight mode, which is what can happen when you're in the middle of divorce, you're so scared about your future. There's so many things going on. You're not really making sound decisions. Mm-hmm. You know, they're not using very good thinking. And so a lot of silly things can happen.
Yeah.
And it's sad because they can ruin the next few years of their life. And they're, like I said, like credit score, I mean, that really hurts you. The woman that I was talking about getting evicted by her ex-husband, she's now going to have an eviction on her record.
Yeah, and that's going to be impossible to even rent an apartment.
I mean, she's going to have to lean on family for at least a few years.
Yeah. No, I know. So, and honestly, if anyone is listening that is going through hard times or going through divorce or potentially, you can reach out to us. You don't necessarily even have to be selling a house, but if you have questions about things,
some advice,
just call us. We'll answer.
Call us, we'll answer.
But yeah.